All right, so today we're going to start talking about Chapter 2. Chapter 2 in your book also refers to the three what they call Muslim empires, also called the Gunpowder empires, for reasons I'll explain later. What you should have for today, you already have your two worksheets. You got that after your last test. Today you should have a graphic organizer. This is high quality teaching and learning right here, kids. This is some of the best stuff. This is $250 an hour stuff. You can't get this in a law office. And your map right here. So each one of y'all should have this map. There will be multiple place names within the borders on here. Okay, so you're going to have time to do that towards the end of the period. So let's talk about, real quick, let me give you some background, this whole concept of these Muslim empires. Keep in mind, this is the same time frame as everything else we've talked about. Okay, Renaissance and Reformation, they all hit in a couple hundred-year time span around 1500. Okay, so these Muslim empires, these gunpowder empires, they're going to hit the same time frame. And the biggest connection that there is between these, what we call these gunpowder empires in Europe, is the first big green one right here. We see the Ottoman Empire. And if you remember when we talked about the Renaissance, we used 1453 as a really important date because 1453 was the year the Ottoman Empire took over Constantinople. They defeated the people there in a very, very long siege, blasted the walls down with cannons, which is one of the reasons they're called the gunpowder empires, took over Constantinople, and then much of southeastern Europe. The Ottoman Empire had a tremendous effect on Europe. And from 1453, the Renaissance. If you remember, in 1453, a lot of the scholars and intellectuals left Constantinople and went to Italy to escape the craziness that accompanies the aftermath of a siege. So a big influence there. We'll also talk about the Safavid, and we'll talk about the Mughal empires. Okay. Now, our lesson essential question for the day is, what were the causes of growth and expansion in the so-called Muslim empires between 1300 and 1700? Again, the same general time span as we've been talking about already with the Renaissance, the Reformation. Now we've got the gunpowder empires. And after this, we'll also get into sailing all around the world with trade, and so that's the time of exploration. So a lot of things happened in the 1500s. Okay, so your homework, you should have two worksheets already, that map and the graphic organizer. I'm not sure when we're going to get the test because we've been out for the last 2 days because of Hurricane Irma. Okay, so let me give you a little more background on these empires. Okay, the Ottoman Empire. Real quick, here's your map. Okay, so you can't see this on TV here very well, but you've got the map, and we've got the Ottoman, the Safavid, and the Mughal. So real quick, let me just give you a little background so we can get some idea of where these are today. This is the Ottoman Empire. Okay, and the Ottoman Empire was very expansive, and it lasted for 600 years, and it lasted all the way up to the end of World War I. It's a big empire, and it's a very long-lasting empire. But it all started right here in the middle of the Anatolian Peninsula, okay, right here, with a group of guys, a couple hundred guys, and their leader was a guy named Othman, and it eventually expanded everywhere that you see here in the green. So from Southeast Europe all the way through the heart of the Middle East right here, Syria, Lebanon, which is now Israel, the whole area of Palestine, all the way here through Egypt, eventually all the way over in all of North Africa. So it was a very large empire. The Safavid Empire here, this is modern-day Iran, okay? So let me jump back real quick. The Ottoman Empire, modern-day Greece, Turkey, okay, and Turkey is what the Ottoman Empire was called after it was done, after World War I. Syria, Iraq, Palestine, Egypt, and this area here, Saudi Arabia. The Safavid Empire in the modern-day times is Iran. Also, before it was called Iran, it was called Persia. So a lot of times you just hear the term Persia. And then the Mughal Empire, was here in what's now modern day India. Okay, so these empires, they expanded. They're also called gunpowder empires because they expanded militarily. Okay, and let me get into real quick. Oh, there's your map. Okay, that's good. All right, so this is like the third or fourth slide right here. This is what I just talked about with where these places are today and the types of Muslims that they are. Sunni in Turkey, Shiite in Safavid in modern day Iran, and then in India it was just like general Muslim, and then there were Hindu people there and others as well. Okay, these are just some pictures I've got here of Ottoman army artillerymen. One of the things you'll notice is they're really cool hats. They had these very ornate hats that gave them, determined who they were. So if a guy had a really cool hat, he was like really important. This guy with the peacock feathers, I guess he was in charge of everybody. But okay, here's the picture of the Dardanelles cannon. This is 1453. This is when the Ottomans took over Constantinople. They did it by blasting holes in the walls. You remember from your study of, remember your Middle Ages last year, all these towns, they had a castle, but then they had the big wall around it and a moat. Y'all remember that, right, from studying? Okay, good. So Constantinople was a huge city, big, huge walls, and you would know that if you played Assassin's Creed. Who's been to Constantinople with Assassin's Creed, right? Big walls, yeah. Big walls, hard to defeat, got a big chain across the river. All right. Now, Constantinople, the Muslims could never take over. They tried to take over Constantinople going all the way back to around AD 700. So for 700 years, Constantinople sat there, and the Muslims wanted to take it over, but they couldn't take it over. Eventually, they got big cannons. The Ottoman Empire came in. They got these big cannons. They actually bought this cannon from a guy in Hungary who could have sold it to Constantinople, but they didn't want to pay the money. So that's economics there. But the Ottoman Empire, the leader, bought this big cannon. The cannon launched 1,200-pound boulders and eventually knocked the wall down, which was bad for the people inside because they had been yelling insults at the Ottomans for months and months and months. And then once they broke in, they did what all conquering people do after they break walls down, and that's kill everybody for 3 days, rape all the women, and take the men and sell them into slavery. So here's another picture. You can go through and look at some of these when you're in Google Classroom. All this information's for you there. You'll have some time to look at pictures. Here's some other. These are some Mughal artillerymen. Again, big cannons, cool hats, and skirts and dresses. Very comfortable, I would imagine, in these dresses. Okay, so real quick, one of the terms that you want to have here is the term Ghazis. This is a warrior for Islam. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire started with a guy named Ottoman, and he was a successful warrior for Islam. Okay, so when you look at things like the Quran, everybody says the Quran is the Islamic Bible. Okay, yeah, but the Quran also tells the followers how to conquer land and be a successful holy warrior for Islam, and this is what Ottoman and his followers did. At the time, there was a power vacuum. A power vacuum is a situation where there's no big regional national government, so somebody can eventually take over. So nature abhors a vacuum. Osman and his buddies took over. Initially, they rode horses and had short bows, so they could ride real fast and shoot and kill people from horseback, very much like the Mongols did, which were probably their ancestors at some point. Years later, the Ottomans got artillery, cannons, and muskets, and continued their expansion through those forms of techniques in military. Okay. Now, this is very important on how the Ottoman Empire got so big. So what they would do is they would destroy a town, like early on. They would go fight and they would destroy a town, and then they would take over, and that was good. for them. And then eventually what they would do is they would take over through alliances, because they would destroy one town, and then there was another town 30 miles away, and they'd go, hey, would you like to join our Ottoman Empire? And they say, well, we don't know about that. We don't know if we want to join that. And they'd say, well, did you see what we did like last month to the town over there? We destroyed it. And if you join our empire, there's certain things that advantages you'll have. So to join the Ottoman Empire, you got some cool stuff. You got protection, military. You got protection, police. You got road system. Ottomans have good roads. Roads mean trade. Trade means economy. Economy is better for everybody. Okay? So a lot of times, towns and cities wanted to join the Ottoman Empire. So there was a push-pull effect. Number one, they didn't want to die. Okay? So they wanted to join. But also, the Ottomans offered a lot of really cool stuff to joining their empire. Okay? All right. So let's see what else. There's some other things. I'm just flipping through this real quick. We'll have a rigorous discussion tomorrow. But for the rest of today, what I want you to do is work on your graphic organizer. The information is in your book, but it's also on your Google Slides. If you go to Google Classroom, Chapter 2, the information's there. You can work on that. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those for you. You can also work on your map. So those are the two things that we're doing that are incredibly engaging today. So you kids are being really engaged in the classroom right now with the map and the graphic organizer, because, you know, graphic organizers are just incredible to help you graphically organize your thoughts, especially on something that's different, because most of y'all have never heard of the Muslim empires before, the so-called Gunpowder empires. You heard a little bit about the Middle East last year with Miss Lockett and her class. And so you'll be working on that today. So keep engaged, keep working hard, be rigorous in the classroom, and have a great day.